And now I am recording, and this will give time for people to get in here. So this represents one of the things that I want to do with you all is encourage you to put in that extra 1 degree of effort because there's a lot that you can learn from this particular class, but that's up to you. I'm going to be testing your capability here quite a bit with some of the things that we'll be doing. So let's just go right ahead and I'll queue up the first thing that we want to talk about. And that is to tell you a little bit about my plan for this class. There's an old axiom that 2% never hear. No matter how hard you try to communicate something, you still run into the problem of 2% never hear. And I find that consistently true. So let me tell you who I am. I am Bill Donahue, and I like to be called Bill, and I do like to get acquainted with you on a personal basis. You are more than my students, you're my kids now for the next 15 weeks. And I always make a commitment that as long as I'm vertical, I remain your teacher. I have an office at Jack Brown, but you're never going to go see it because we are not allowed in there. My office hours, I've set up that I'm available from 2 until 5:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and also by arrangement. And I really do want to encourage you to take advantage of that if you want to talk to me whenever you have a need of whatever sort, whether it's about school or career choices or even personal things. I'm glad to be involved with you. Um, I will always try and make myself available at your convenience rather than stick you with a rigid schedule that you have to follow. When you want to get me, the place to get me is on my cell phone. That's now my office phone because that's the only way we have to communicate. And my number is 714-964-5319. So make sure you copy that down someplace so you can get a hold of me. Put me on your Rolodex or whatever you call it on the phone so that when my number pops up, you'll know who it is. I have a school email address, but I check that maybe once, maybe twice a week. I check my personal email, which you see there, at least a couple times a day. So if you have something that you want to get a fairly fast answer, my personal email. And that email is WG Donahue, that's my initials, and obviously the Donahue is my last name. And it has 4 O's, DONOHOO. And I'm at AOL.com. Okay. Don't be afraid to speak up in this class. Is that okay?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, that tells me that you that I am connecting. I may not connect to you up here at in your cranium, but at least we're making connection over the internet. And that was what I ran into last time, was just plain couldn't it was pixelating, and it dropped me in 2 instances. My goal in this class is to create and build men and women of character and integrity. And if along the way you learn a little bit about business, it'll be so much the better. Now, I don't use texts. In fact, I put out a list of things that I don't do or that I do that are different from my colleagues. And you may want to read that if you determine that there's something that's not a good fit for you, now's the time to make the change out of the class. And one of those things that some people don't like is I don't use a textbook. And what I do use is some of the best academic writing that's available in popular books. And I'm going to do something here. I live in Lake Arrowhead. So I don't know whether anybody else lives in the mountains or not, but I'm going to show you out of my window right now before it gets too dark. So I'll take my camera off here. And I don't know whether you can see how much snow I've got in the backyard. There's some areas where there's piles that must be 4 feet deep.
It's like I'm right back in Michigan.
It seemed like it. It seemed like it. My daughter just moved to Detroit this last year, so I think they probably have gotten a little snow by this point. When I talked to her the other day, they had a dusting, and we'd had about 6 inches. I don't know whether am I pretty well honed into you with this. Now that I put it back up, we'll find out when I finish this set of slides. You could see it, couldn't you?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, we're
Okay.
good.
But this is such a delightful thing. It's just as beautiful. I love it. And I don't have to drive very far, just out to the kitchen. The first book I want you to get is Management by Peter Drucker. And I don't know whether you know who Peter Drucker is, but he was probably the most probably the best thinker in the area of management and strategy. In fact, as far as business strategy is concerned, he's the person that really defined what strategy is. He died, I believe, in about 2005. He was 97 years old, and he was a public speaker up until just a few weeks before he died. Uh, Very thick German accent and very hard to hear as he got to the end of his life, but still just as brilliant as when he had been younger. You can get his magnum opus, which is called Management. The book is called Management by Peter Drucker. It's available for free as a PDF. So got the right price point on that. Drucker, just to kind of give you another thing about him, when he died, they changed the name of the school at Claremont from whatever they had it as named as to the Drucker School of Management. So he's a very significant player, and one of the things that I'm sorry that I missed was a chance to go to some of his lectures because he was available and just down the road, not 20 miles from here. You need to have this book, Understanding Michael Porter, and this is by Joan Magretta. It's about $25. You can probably get it down around 15 as a new copy. You can also get it as an ebook, or you can get it as an Audible book. The narrator on it is terrible, but if you crank if you're using Audible, if you crank it up to 125% speed, terrible. But it's a very, very good book. Michael Porter is a brilliant scholar, but he's also very hard to read. And Joan Magretta, who worked with him, has converted this into something that's very readable. And I think you're going to not only learn a lot from the book, but you're going to enjoy reading it. Well, she also came out with another book, and this is the first time I've used it because it came out about October, and it's called What is Strategy? And it's one of those picture books. What do they call the novels? A graphic novel that you see a lot of today. And that's how this is organized. It takes the same material that's in the Michael Porter book and does it with, as you can see, looking at the cover of the book, with animals representing. There's a bull on there representing something like a bull market, and obviously there's a bear there representing just the opposite. And it develops with pictures and with text, all of the same materials that are in the Understanding Michael Porter book. I want you to get that one as well. And that one, I think you can get as cheaply as $22. One of the really important business books that I've read in the last few years is How Will You Measure Your Life by Clayton Christensen. And this is another brilliant academic. Both he and Michael Porter were at Harvard together, and the two of them represented the most widely respected academics in the world. And they do some kind of a ranking every year. And one year, Porter would be the most acclaimed, and the next year, Christensen would be, and then the following year, they would kind of reverse. So very, very high level people, and it means that you're going to be getting some of the best thinking there is in this for this class. The book, How Will You Measure Your Life? Christensen takes some of his theories and weaves them into a book where he'll have the first half of the chapter describing how that theory can be used in business. And the second half of the chapter will describe how it's used in life, in family life, how the same principles apply. Excellent book. It's the top bestseller list on Amazon for business books and has been since it came out. And again, it's going to be around 18 bucks. So pretty cheap. It's also available on Audible. I don't know if there's an ebook for it, but you can get whichever ones work for you. Then the last thing, no, the next to the last thing that you have to buy is the key for the business simulation game. And one of the difficulties I've had, because I'm running 5 classes, all of you are doing the same game, but competing in your own universe, is getting you the right code number. So if by chance you got the incorrect code number and signed up, not to worry, I can get you moved around. And in fact, I'm asking all of you, if you have not bought the game already, when you sign up, you'll sign up to be part of Team J. That they're going to ask you for your code number and then also for your team number. And all of you will go into Team J. So I should end up with about 25 of you on that team. And then as we actually put you in groups where you'll be working together on working with the simulation, I'll move you to the appropriate place so that each of you will be in the right company. That's $44.95. And if you've not gotten it already, you must have it for our next meeting, because I'm going to really be getting into that game at that point in terms of explaining it. And if you get the material and read the player's manual, which is about 40 pages long, you'll be in much better shape to have a discussion and to pick up on my hints for the use of the game. And I think your team number, your industry number 102. So I've already done this game 101 times prior to having this particular class. So I'm getting pretty well, I get to know it pretty well. The last thing you have to buy is we're going to be doing some case studies, and these are from the Harvard Business School. I put them together in a course pack, and these can be purchased just one way. The only way you can get them is for 17 bucks. Each person has to buy their own cases because this is intellectual property, so we can't get the cases and then copy and hand it around. And this is important because I'm trying to build people who have character and integrity. And not only that, but I know you all are probably, or majority of you will probably end up in some kind of information area for your employment. And I want to make sure that you don't have your material stolen either. Because you'll have a right to getting the benefit of the work that you've done. I'm going to ask you also to get 2 articles, and these are by Peter Drucker. They're free. You can get it online. You can get all of the material from the Harvard Business Review online at the Pfau Library, and you can find most of the things that I reference you to just in general by Googling them. One article is What Makes an Effective Executive, and the other one is called Managing Oneself. And these are 2 excellent articles. The What Makes an Effective Executive really will have a lot of viability for you in this course and in your general life, because it talks about how to set priorities, how to do time management, how to conduct a meeting successfully, how to deal with people that you're going to be having work for you or that you are going to be working for. It's got a
I had a
lot of very
question about that.
What's that?
I had a question about the effective, what makes an effective executive.
Yes.
I was looking for that one online and I was able to find the Effective Executive by Peter Drucker, and it's a 202-page book. I wasn't able to find an article. Is that it?
No, the 200-page book is an excellent book, and it's well worth your while if you want to pursue being a professional manager. I ended up buying this in a small book, and it had the 2 articles I just mentioned, and the article that I am referring to and that you're referring to is called What Makes an Effective Executive. And as you noodle around in there, you will find it.
Okay.
I think some of the companies like McKinsey and Company, for example, have taken it and put it in their library because it's a very valuable article for their clientele. But
yeah, because I was looking for that, and then I found some that wanted like $17 or something for one article, and I didn't think that was right.
Nope, everything. These are free. They're definitely free. Now, at the Pfau Library, they have every article that was ever published in the Harvard Business Review from 1922 to the present. So you have no problem getting that. Your default would be to go to the library and ask their help to get that article.
All right, thank you.
You can print it out. Good stuff, really good stuff. I just always have been affected every time I go back and go through that article again. And I do that. I try and keep up on everything in this area of business. And it just always strikes me of how intelligent this man is and how much on top of his game he was, even in his 90s. Now, those are all the things that you got to get. And what I want to have you do is to spend some time, and I'm trying to ask for 90 hours of your time over and above this class between now and the end of the semester. The BSG game, and I sent my first salvo to you a couple weeks ago, asking you to get the game in advance. The BSG game is the business strategy or business simulation game. And what you're going to be doing is making 2 trial decisions, each of which represents 1 year, to make, well, the decisions are everything that you need to have to run a company in the area of product development, marketing, production, finance, HR, the whole gamut of things. You get 2 trial decisions. You'll be on a team. You'll get 2 trial decisions to just get a feel for how the thing works and to see some results. And of course, what you want to do, be able to look at what the other guys are doing and see if you can discern what their strategy is. The game is then reset back to ground zero, and you get 4 decisions. You make your first 4 decisions, during which you'll really learn how to play the game and really learn what the other guys are doing. Within that number of decisions, you should be able to read their mail, because what the strategy someone has chosen and their next 2 or 3 moves are just obvious once you get a chance to look at the results of their decisions from 1 year to the next. You'll take about 6 hours for each of those 6 decisions. The first 2 that are trial, and then the first 4 as you kind of get into the saddle correctly. Subsequently, you're going to understand it well enough. It'll only take you a couple hours each time to make a decision. And you'll hate this game at first, but I'll guarantee you'll love it by the time we get to the end. So that's 48 hours I'm asking on that game. Yes.
I apologize, but if you're asking us in order to put 36 hours into the game, how long do we have in order to prepare for this?
Well, you're going to begin preparing, and I think you got a couple of weeks after that. If you were to pull up on Blackboard right now, I believe I've put this out there correctly for your class. There's a thing that's called proposed plan for the class, or something of that order. And it's
Okay.
up at the top in the, there's a tab on Blackboard.
I have the PowerPoint pulled up.
Okay, and it talks about the syllabus and the game materials and schedule.
Okay.
And you should find the schedule, and in there on the right, there's about 5 columns in the file that you got there. And the 5th one, the one to the right, should give you the date, approximate date, like it could be Thursday evening or it might be Friday afternoon, but you're very close to the range for making each of those decisions. And I think you should end up with 2 or 3 weeks of learning and developing your skill level before we get started on it.
All right. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, and that'll carry you. But the 10th decision, I think, is the week before the last week of school. Now, the other things I want you to do is I want you to read some excerpts from Drucker. I'll assign as we go along, and that's probably 3-4 hours. Magretta, we have to read that book from cover to cover. It'll be worth your time, and it'll take about 10 hours. And that's when I have there in the 2, I'm talking about both books. And I think you'll have fun with that second one. And I'll certainly learn whether I'm going to have fun with it because I haven't gone all the way through it yet. Reading Christensen is going to take about 6 hours. And that may be some of the 6 most productive hours you have. There's a great deal of learning about life in that book, along with the great theories that he has and their application to business. The case studies take about 3 hours apiece to put together. You have to read them, develop the problems within the case study itself, and develop a set of recommendations that will be supported by material in the case. There will be a midterm, but it's going to be like a 3/4 midterm, well along in the course, because I want you to have all the tools necessary to do an analysis, a written analysis for me. And then there's some other miscellaneous assignments that'll take you about 5 hours. So that's the commitment I'm looking for. And, you know, you may give me all of that or all of that and then some, but on the other hand, you may find ways to shortcut it. But you will have to put that time in on the business strategy game. I don't get to listen to the Audible as much anymore because I said the only travel I'm doing is from my desk to the refrigerator, and that's not enough time to really get much reading or listening. To be counted as present, there's a couple things that we need to do. First of all, you're to who's there, and then I want you to keep your window shades open. Now, it may be that having the window shades open while I'm showing a presentation like this is straining the available bandwidth. If that's the case, I'll give you a signal to turn off your pull down your window shade. But otherwise, I want to see you. This is very tough to get a personal relationship with y'all, but I really want to have one. And so that when I can see you, that'll be so much the better for me. And I hope for you too. Great to have a computer to take notes in the class, but as we get into the game, there's going to be a real urgency. You'll want to get on the game and find out what the results are. What's happening right now? Well, nothing's happening because the thing is inert between the results coming out of the decision, which you'll get. You'll submit your decision right around midnight, so you'll get them by about 12:15 in the evening. It doesn't move then until you make the next decision. So nothing's going to change, and there's no need to be fiddling around trying to find, extract something from that game, and at the same time, losing out on the opportunity to learn things that I hope will have some real value for you. Now, one of the things in life that we always have is unintended consequences. Every decision we make has got unintended consequences. We're involved right now in Congress, for example, with something that makes absolutely no sense. It's a vendetta against our former president. And what the expected outcome, I think, is that they will be able to prevent, or they're going to try and prevent, Donald Trump from running for office again 4 years later. But the unintended consequences are the success of Joe Biden's presidency is going to be a function of what he accomplishes in the first 100 days he's in office. This is traditionally what happens in the beginning of everyone's tenure in office, is they try and push through the things that were popular, that caused people to vote for them in the first place, and things then kind of settle down into the normal bickering between the two sides, the Republican and Democrat, after that 100 days. And what the unintended consequence of this move, which I don't think will be successful, to keep Trump from being able to run 4 years from now, is that they're hamstringing the new president's agenda. And unfortunately, people are telling those who are pushing the impeachment program that that's the outcome, but there's no listing going on. Well, this is true of things that are happening all the time in your life, and all the time you are making decisions. And so what we want to do is try and hone the skills that you have so that you'll be thinking about some of those unintended consequences before you make the major decisions in your business, in your schooling here, and also in your business life after you get out of school. Now, this is you right now. In fact, it actually was me earlier today when I was having trouble getting everything into the computer today. You're the deer in the headlights. There was a time back in the 1870s when a man named Blondin came to Buffalo, and that's on the left-hand side of this picture. At least that's where Buffalo is. And he strung a high wire across Niagara Falls, which you see in the picture, all the way from the American side over to the Canadian side. And he put out an announcement that it was his intent to walk across that high wire with nothing underneath him as a safety net, all the way from the American side to the Canadian side. And the day that he was supposed to do this, well, a huge crowd appeared, excuse me, there in Buffalo, because they wanted to see what he was going to do. And he stood up and announced, today what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk across that high wire with no safety net. And I'm going to go all the way from the American side to the Canadian side. And well, everyone was excited and cheering for him. And he said, and furthermore, when I do this, what I'm going to do, put a wheelbarrow on that wire, and I'll walk all the way across, pushing the wheelbarrow from the American side to the Canadian side. Well, this got people even more excited. And he said, and furthermore, I'm going to put somebody in that wheelbarrow. Well, at this point, they became unglued. They were so excited about seeing it. And he asks, any volunteers? So what I'm going to ask of you is that you take some personal risks and that we get in that wheelbarrow together and go all the way from the American side to the Canadian side. And if you're willing to take that risk, there's no place we can't go together. So my objective for this is at the end that this is what you're going to look like, no longer the deer in the headlights. Now, I taught a class out in Palm Springs several years ago, and the kids gave me a great honor that even today gets me kind of emotional about, because they all showed up with their Superman shirt, and I hope some of the things that we taught in that class have stuck with them and have helped them along in their life. So how do you do your grading? What makes up your grade? The first thing is the business strategy game. And this is a game that's totally self-grading. You can tell after every decision exactly where you stand. And you're doing that for a professor or a guy who's teaching you who could care less what your grade is on that. And the reason is because what I want you to do is to learn from the experience. And sometimes you'll learn far more from the experience when you fall into the ditch, when you make a bad decision and you have to overcome it by coming back with better decisions.
Trial by error.
What's that?
Trial by error. It's an excellent teacher.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm going to give you some techniques to learn from those trial by errors a little bit later on this afternoon. But I will, if I see that you worked hard, irrespective of what the numbers are, I'm going to make sure that you do okay in this course. So while the 30% of the score is going to be on that grade, there's another 20% is going to be on an evaluation. There's 2 evaluations within the game. But I'm going to administer a separate evaluation where you get a chance to detail how you've worked together with your team. And that's going to be 20% of your grade. It'll take maybe 15 or 20 minutes to complete. And that's going to be 2/3 as much value as what you put in, let's see, we said about 60 hours on. So your ability to play in the sandbox together is going to be important. I wish you could see the trees outside my window. These tall pines are here and they're covered, they're flocked all the way to the top. Beautiful. And it doesn't last. So the total value, and now I'm coming back to where I should be. The total value of the game is the 30 plus 20, or a total of 50%. Now this is a team sport. It's not contact sport, but it is a team sport, and you're expected to work together. One of the things I'll be looking for as I do my evaluation of each of you, and as you evaluate one another, is does somebody try and dominate the arguments, or is there good participation with everyone contributing? Are there some people that or is there a person on the team that just doesn't want to get involved in it at all and doesn't make any contribution? I can't allow that either way. I can't have someone dominating, and I can't have someone being lagging. So I do want to make sure that you recognize you work as a team. Now there is a mulligan in this game. If you believe that your BSG scores don't reflect what you've learned, and that's the only criteria I'm using for your success in this class, is what you've learned. The team, if you don't like the score that you got because of the decisions that didn't work out, but you've learned stuff, you can submit a 2-page report for the team on what you've learned during the game to improve your score, and that'll always work to your benefit. Now, well, the other things that make up part of your grade, your attendance represents 10%. And in order to be counted for attendance, you got to have your window shade open. Unless I tell you to close it because it's going to, we're going to be losing or overcrowding the bandwidth. Your involvement in class discussion. We're having some discussion back and forth now. And I like that. I like your willingness to talk. I'll be checking you off at your involvement all the way through in the class. And I'll actually have a list of who's in the class when I do that. So the combination of those two is 20%. So we've got 50% on the related to the game, 20% to participation, 20% more for your midterm. So we're now up to 90%. And this is going to be a written report. It'll be about 5 pages long based on a specific question on one of our case studies. And you don't have to go outside of that case study. Everything will be self-contained in it. And this, as I said, will be toward the end of the quarter because I'm going to be teaching you new techniques and new capabilities as we go through. And I want you to be in the best position to exercise what you've learned. You will be making a PowerPoint presentation, and I'll assign an article that you'll be able to get for free. And then you'll have some little quizzes or fill-in kinds of stuff that make up the final 5%. So 30 plus 20 plus 20, the big 3. Big 4. Well, the 30 plus 20 for the game. The attendance and participation 20%, and the midterm gives you the real important things that you need to look at. And then the final 2 things are the PowerPoint presentation and quizzes, and that totals up to 100%. How do you get an A? Get involved in class discussion. That will do more for you personally and for your grade than anything else. Because this helps me to get to know who you are and to know about you. And the better I know you, the better impression I have of you. And the more I'm impressed by what you do, or the more I am impressed, the better your grade. And this is the way the world works. The promotions don't always go to the most capable individual, but the promotions do go to people who got a good relationship with the person that can give them the promotion. So I'm encouraging you to get to know me so I can encourage you with better grades and also give you the courage when you go out, not to encourage, but the courage to go out when you go to work and use the same technique to improve your position in whatever your employer has for you.
But the discussions, are they going to be like weekly questions that we answer, or is it just a general discussion about the course as time goes on?
Yeah, right now, the first couple of sessions is all me feeding you. And, you know, the fact that you're even opening up and talking right now is unusual. And I like that, because this all should be a dialogue. And so when we get into some of the topics, I'll be asking questions as we go along and trying to get your responses. And certainly with the case studies, which is where we are right now, all of the case studies are going to be oral. And so when you read and study the case, you're going to come in with a recommendation, and you're going to present that if I call on you or if you volunteer to throw it out for discussion. And then we want to challenge you from the position that you've taken. So
But the discussions they're under the discussion tab within Blackboard, because I'm not seeing
No.
anything yet.
no,
Oh.
the discussion tab in there is these threads. I don't even know how to use it yet, but I'm working with a lady in the ITS, I guess that's what they call the area over there. And we're trying to get that worked out so that I can put a question in there and you all can respond to it. But my real interface with you is when you talk in class, when we talk back and forth, just as we are now.
Okay. So this is the discussion right here, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know who, because if I had that list in front of me, I'd be checking you off and say, this guy is, and I take it you are a guy, right? This
Yeah.
It sounds like it. I'll be checking you off that this guy has made a contribution. It's something that is beginning to challenge him, so I can go back and say, hey, well, what do you think about this? And this will improve your skill set.
Okay.
And yes,
I have a question in regards to the schedule, real quick.
sure.
It says on the section, BSG decisions by class session. So the whatever's due is on that date. So for example, you have trial 1 due on Tuesday 2/9. That will be the due date, right? For the,
Yeah, yeah. And it may turn out that the actual date, when I give you the actual schedule for that, and that's the one that you have to work with, it'll give you a date and time to submit your decision. And once that window is hit, once you hit that window, boom, the decision goes off, and about 5 minutes later, you've got the results. And so all of the teams that are going to be competing, and you've got, I think about 27, which implies if I put 3 people on a team, there'll be 9 teams making their decision, putting it in the same time, or no later than that same time. And then about 15 minutes later, you'll get the results.
and you'll let us know when to,
Oh, yeah, you'll have the schedule. You'll have
Okay,
a
okay.
schedule in hand, and you'll have that, and it's essential that you follow that.
okay,
And if you fail to put your decisions in, it just automatically accepts the decision you made the prior decision. So, you know, if you say, well, we're going to leave our prices at $50 a piece, that's fine. But if you didn't get that in time, and the last decision had the price at 45, it's going to execute the decision with the 45. You follow what I'm saying?
yes.
Okay. And that happens every now and again because somebody, oh, darn, I forgot that. But we'll go through that in extreme detail with you. And I don't think you'd be bored by it. So when you do your case studies, what I want you to do is you can do it as a team. When I went to school, and you know, this has been ages ago. I graduated from graduate school in 1966, and I'd gone to Harvard. And what we were instructed to do was to get what they called a head group, which would be a group of 4 or 5 people that you would meet with every day, because you all had all the same classes. And one of us would be responsible for the case study for that evening. We all had to be prepared for it, but one person would have responsibility for the finance case and someone else would have responsibility for the marketing case. And in that way, we built on the corporate knowledge of all the people in those groups. And it worked out very well. So I encourage you to do the same thing. So when you've put your studies together, you'll get a chance either by volunteering to do it or by my calling you to present and defend your plan. And you don't necessarily have to be the first one, because you, in these kind of situations, there's always multiple answers. And so someone presents a good case, another person can present that is a good case in favor of a particular approach. Another person can present a case that's exactly the opposite and make a very good case. It's a way, kind of like they do in the court of law, where the lawyers, each of them can prove exactly 180%, 180 degrees from each other. But recognize that there'll never be any right answers. And so there's no penalty for opening up and saying something that seems like it's going to be foolish. And I'll never reject a contribution, no matter how far off the mark it is. And I'll never cut anybody off at the knees. Everybody will be treated with respect for every contribution that you make. And as I said, even if you're way off target, I've been around this world long enough that I can take the threads that you give me and weave it into the fabric of our discussion to make it a worthwhile contribution. So what I'm asking of you is that you work with me to make you a better person. That's what we're trying to do. I don't want to put any of you in an uncomfortable position, but I do want you to stretch yourself to do a little bit more, to get that extra degree, to take something that is inert into the strong steam that can drive a steam engine. And only you can control that. When I went to my undergraduate school, this was the archway over the building where I went to school. That was the University of Cincinnati. And I had a liberal arts degree there. And this was over the doorway, and it comes from the wisdom of Solomon in the Bible. This little particular proverb said, "Wisdom is the principal thing, and therefore get wisdom." And I hope that during the time we're together that you will get some wisdom. But as I got older and I read all of the Proverbs, I found that the very next sentence in this particular proverb was, "With all that getting, get understanding." And so I hope, in addition to passing on some things that might be of some value to you as wisdom, that we also work to get understanding so that you can apply the things that you've learned to practical work in the jobs that you get. Oops. So follow the instructions. You get your ID key if you have not gotten it already. And as I said, it really makes no difference where you happen to put yourself. I can get you back in the place I want you once I know that you're there. Go to BSG online, buy the key. You have to have the key to play the game. And the key information is on, I believe it is on the announcements page on Blackboard. It's either announcements, that's where it should be, but it might also be in the thing with the syllabus, game materials, and can't remember what the third thing is on that particular tab. But if you look on Blackboard, you should find that.
It is under announcements.
Okay, good. And is that Blake?
No, that was Ryan.
Ryan?
Mhm.
Okay, Blake had called me up about this earlier, and had he gone ahead when I corresponded with him, he would have ended up probably putting it in the, I'm going to put it here in air quotes, the wrong game. But if he's done that, as I said, I can get him over to the right game. And
Well,
I'm
I followed, I followed the directions and I put it into Team J when I signed it all up.
He is
So-
in team 102. I
Yes,
just
that's
checked.
right.
this.
It's
Yeah,
in-
102 Team J.
And then you've got the other thing that is the code breaker to get you in. It's a
Yeah, I
game
believe
number.
I'm where I need to be.
Okay, and it doesn't make any difference. I can fix it, whatever it is.
Yeah, 'cause I can see Industry 102 and I can see my name as well as some of the other names within the Zoom. So I feel like I'm in where I belong.
Well, you all, when I say that, you all, it's all 5 groups, have done a very good job of getting ahead, because there's nothing worse than trying to play catch up on this game. So I really wanted to get you going early. And, you know, the fact that you can look in there and see so many people who bought their key, that's a good sign. So your assignment, the assignment for next class is to make sure you got the game key, and that you spend some time, you've got a whole week here, spend some real time studying the player's manual. Now, I understand, I'm so old, I can't use anything that isn't in hard copy. So I print out my player's manual. But I know you kids know enough technology that you can work with the thing online. And I think that there's some things there that will help you get through that player's manual, some links. For a particular topic, you can find it more easily than I can when I use the paper copy, but you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Buy the 2 Magretta books. You can probably get them most cheaply at Amazon or from Barnes and Noble. And buy the Christensen book. I can't monitor whether you've gotten those or not. I just have to leave that and trust that you've done so. There's a student information sheet, and what I said I want to get to know you, and so I've asked some questions in there to try and understand a little bit more about what makes you up. And that I want to have turned in. I have in there, I think, by Thursday night, 11:59. So it's under the assignments page, and you submit it right there in the assignments section. And then finally, I want you to purchase the Harvard cases. Now I get a listing of who's bought the cases, so I can always check up on you on that. But I want to have that done before you come into class next week. And if we don't get those, I'm going to have to drop you from the class, because I don't want to have people pulling the whole class backwards. And that I did that last time. I had people that I was about a week late starting the game, and it put me 1 week short of being able to complete the game because some people just didn't do the work, didn't do what they were supposed to. So I know that in all my classes, there will be some that will refuse to do this, even though it's necessary. And it's just like that sign says. Men, you need to go to the doctor regularly just to make sure that everything is working right. But some people know they won't. So that's my information for you for this particular section. And I don't know whether we lost somebody along the way there. But let's see. I'm going to give you one more, and then we're going to take a little bit of a break. Can you handle one more? It's a short one.
Yes.
Don't all speak at one time. All right, good, Gustavo. Thank you. And what I want to talk about is critical thinking. My first job when I got out of school was with IBM. And every manager in those days, and I suspect it probably is still true, had a little plaque on his desk, and it said, think. And what they wanted their managers to do was not to be able to give answers, but to think about the consequences, or to think more deeply about the causes for that that caused them to come up with the simple answer that they did. And this is all part of critical thinking. I'm going to teach you with the Socratic method, and I believe that you've got all the things that you need in the limited life experiences that you had. Even as young people, you really have all the experience that you need to handle the problems that you'll have in school and also when you get out into the working world. And my job is to get you to bring those things back up out of your life. And I'm not looking for true confessions, but I am looking for the life experiences that you've had that can be useful in making future decisions. So as we go through this class, I will be asking you questions and you'll be giving me answers. And then I'm going to come back and use the open-ended kind of probe with words like who, what, where, why, when, and how. And we're going to see if we can dig deeper and find out what the root cause is for the positions that you've taken. So that's what we're trying to do. Through the dialogue, we'll move to a more fundamental level of your understanding of the real case issues. And those are the real life issues too. And it's kind of like assembling a jigsaw puzzle. You got all the pieces and you've got to find out how to position them together so that you can make the whole puzzle work. And this is critical thinking. And this is probably the most powerful thing that you need to learn in your years in school here. It's how to think critically. There's two main complaints that employers have about people coming out of college. One, they don't know how to write or speak in good communication. And number two, they don't know how to think. And when they say they don't know how to think, what they're indicating is that people don't know how to think critically. They can give an answer, but they can't get to the problems behind the answer or the issues behind the answer to make it a workable kind of a thing. So let me give you all the ones that you're going to run into are going to be ill-structured problems. In your life, you're going to have ill-structured problems where there's no easy answers. This is a little film clip, and we'll see if we can get it to work right here, from the Apollo 13. And if you remember, I suspect you've probably seen that movie, but this is when the lunar vessel exploded on its way to the moon, which is not a good place to end up with a need for repair. And they had to come up with a way to get them back. And one of the problems that they had is they were running out of oxygen. And so this is how this little film clip opens.
Gene, we have a situation brewing with the carbon dioxide.
We had a CO2 filter problem on the lunar module,
5 filters on the limb.
which were meant for 2 guys for a day and a half. So I told the doc,
They're already up to 8 on the gauges. Anything over 15 and you get impaired judgment, blackouts, the beginnings of brain asphyxia.
What about the scrubbers on the command module?
They take square cartridges.
The ones on the limb are round.
Tell me this isn't a government operation.
It just isn't a contingency we've remotely looked at.
Those CO2 levels are going to be getting toxic.
Well, I suggest you gentlemen invent a way to put a square peg in a round hole. Rapidly.
Okay, people, listen up. People upstairs handed us this one, and we gotta come through. We gotta find a way to make this fit into the hole for this, using nothing but that. Let's get it organized.
Okay, let's build a filter.
Better get some coffee going, too, someone.
And that's pretty much how the problems of life come at you. no obvious solution and you got to figure a way to make it happen. Always be inquisitive when you're studying. You need to work out all the answers by yourself, for yourself. There's no right answers in this class. Certainly nothing I tell you is right. And always challenge me and disbelieve everything that I tell you. And I will respect you for it. I do expect to have you educate me as well. So no contribution will be rejected. Never cut you off at the knees. Always be treated with respect. And I'll weave the threads of what you give me into the fabric of our discussion. Every contribution will improve your grade. I'm just repeating so you really understand it. Martin Luther King had said that the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and critically. Intelligence plus character. That's the goal of true education. So I'm trying to hit on all cylinders here to help you think critically and also to develop your character and integrity. So now I'm going to give you a 5-minute break. And right now, according to my watch, it is 3 after 5. So if you want to run out to the refrigerator and get something or get something to drink, I'll see you back here about 8 after. I'm going to shut off my window here. I'm going to get private. I'm also going to stop the recorder at this point, and we'll